Welcome to the Building a Safer Evansville LGBTQ plus learning series, session 5 of 6 on school support for LGBTQ plus youth and bringing inclusivity into education. Some ground rules. This is an open and safe space, which means that questions are welcomed and we will do our best to answer any concerns that you might have. Content warnings are going to be issued today when dealing with sensitive topics or terminology. The sensitive topics and terminology are discussion of harassment and regressive language. Today's takeaways. Uh, do I know how to advocate for welcoming schools in Evansville Community School District? And can I recognize specific things that contribute to inclusive education and schooling? We will pause for an activity towards the end to discuss how can your organization advocate for schools to be more inclusive and LGBTQ plus affirming. Please keep this stuff in mind as we proceed through the presentation today. Some background information about LGBTQ plus youth in Evansville. We talked about it in the last presentation, but 21% of the Evansville middle and high school population identify as LGBTQ plus, and 25% are unsure how they would identify. And this comes from the 2018 Middle and High School YRBS, compared to nationally, where it's 8% or 1.3 million high school students in America report being lesbian, gay, or bisexual from the 2016 National YRBS. There are some troubling statistics nationwide. 27% of LGBTQ plus youth can definitely be themselves in school as an LGBTQ plus person, so less than 1/3. 13% of LGBTQ plus youth report hearing positive messages about being LGBTQ plus in school, and only 12% received information about safe sex that was relevant to them as an LGBTQ plus youth. So only 26% of LGBTQ plus youth report that they always, always, always feel safe in the classroom. When less than 1/3 of your student base doesn't feel safe, that is a pretty concerning statistic. So what does this mean for our coalition? It means 5 kind of things. Advocating for LGBTQ plus youth at every opportunity, building safe spaces into our community and our schools, focusing on underage drinking through the Stop Act grant that BASE has, LGBTQ plus focused trainings for teachers and administration, and providing resources to youth, parents, and teachers. So how can we support students? There are 4 main ways to go about supporting students. We'll go into depth a little bit on each of these in just a second. It means being inclusive about sex, gender, and pronouns in your education. It means making change based on new knowledge, experiences, and conversations. It means stepping in to stopping bullying at every opportunity and to be visibly and very, very vocally supportive of students. Inclusive schooling. On the right, you'll see 2 sets of puzzles. The one on top is diversity and the one on the bottom is inclusion. Diversity means that you can have all of the puzzle pieces in the world, but if you don't make them fit together, it doesn't do any good. So you can have students of ethnically, socially, economically diverse backgrounds, of racially or LGBTQ plus sexually and gender orientation backgrounds. And if they don't have a place in the school, it doesn't do any good. So our focus doesn't necessarily need to be on diversity, but on inclusion. So the way you can go about doing that is by providing LGBTQ plus focused materials in the classrooms. That means educational materials, pamphlets. That means when you talk about history and certain individuals, to not leave out the fact that they are LGBTQ plus and show the youth in our schools that there is a place for them and that there's a place for them in history as well. Using pronouns and preferred names for students, teachers, and parents. If you are unsure of how to do this, look up a quick guide on how to do pronouns. We have it at the beginning. I believe it was session 1 that we did that talks about pronouns a little bit. If you are trying to figure out a way to incorporate that into your schooling, start of each class or the start of the school year, say, hi, my name is, Professor whatever. My pronouns are he, him, his. Easy way for me to do this. My name is Mark. My pronouns are he, him, his. That's something that signifies to the students that is an inclusive space, and then respecting the pronouns and preferred names of students. Including LGBTQ plus people and providing educational experiences. If you have somebody coming to talk to your class, try and find people who are LGBTQ plus in that field, because it shows again that there's a place for them and that they are welcome and encouraged to participate. And having LGBTQ plus specific resources for students that focus on mental and physical health, support networks, etc. BASE is a great resource guide. We can go ahead and I'll link it in the comments below. It is a really solid resource guide that talks about national, local stuff, It lets students connect in person and in virtual space, and it's really, really important. Making change based on experience is the second big thing. Each student is different and has different needs. Recognizing when a student comes to you with a concern that they may see it differently than another one, but if they feel upset by it or if they feel that they don't feel welcomed, having that conversation with a student on an individual level and not just making this broad change, based on we've always done it this way. So when students come to you and say they have concerns, listen to them. Be aware of stereotypes and using gendered terms. If you are, a home ec teacher and you're talking about, fashion project, don't say, well, we can leave this one up to the gay students in the class because they'll be fine. They'll do really well at this. Or using gendered terms such as, all right, guys, good morning, boys and girls. Instead, using non-gendered terms like students or folks, or, if you know the students by names, say their names specifically. Um, Enforcing stereotypes and using gendered terms may seem harmless to somebody, but for other people, it is a reflection that they don't feel like they belong. Stereotypes, you may not mean it as a bad thing, and you may say, yeah, if a gay student dresses, fashionably or good, like that's what you expect. You may see that as a compliment, but it just reinforces stereotypes for them and feel like they have to fit into a specific box. Um, Kind of along the same vein, having open and honest conversation with your LGBTQ plus students. As a teacher, you are kind of a leader to a lot of these young kids. So if they come to you with concerns, questions, or if they say, hey, you use this term in class, I don't think it was really nice, or you stereotyped me, don't take it as a personal thing necessarily, but see it as an opportunity for growth. If the student comes to you and asks you to make a change, they respect you enough and hope that you'll be able to make that change, because it's already difficult for young people to come to adults saying, we want you to change this. Here's some problems that we have. It's a little bit troubling. um, and don't see it as a personal attack. Instead, see it as an opportunity to make that change and open those doors for conversation with these students. Um, Also, be very respectful of students who are not out or who are figuring out who they are. Similarly, with gendered terms, if you use a gendered term, it might make things a little bit more difficult for a student to feel that they can come out and have these honest conversations with you. But if a student has an honest conversation with you and says that I think I might be gay, or here's some things that I've been thinking about, I want to get your perspective on them, to not accidentally out them to their friends, family, or other students. That can be really rough as well. And just being aware that when you have those conversations with students, ask them what they need, what uh, gender terms they should use, what pronouns they should use, what name they should use. Ask them and know that if they're coming to you, that it's a really good sign that you're doing something right. So just keep on doing that same good stuff. Stopping bullying. Stopping bullying is a problem in a lot of schools. And if a single teacher could come up with a way to stop bullying for all time, you'd be a hero. But unfortunately, we have to kind of start at a lower level. We have to start in our schools and see what change we can make here. If you see on the right, there's an infographic from GLSEN from the National School Climate Survey talking about LGBTQ plus youth feeling unwelcome or unsafe in schools. 65% of them had heard homophobic remarks frequently or often. 30% had missed one day in school in the past month because they'd felt unsafe or uncomfortable. And 85% had been verbally harassed in the past year. So schools are unsafe. It's not a slight at the school. It's a culture that has been unfortunately built by reinforced stereotypes, by language, by lack of action or policy. And if we can stop bullying, if we can make it clear that homophobic remarks or unsafe language or verbal harassment or physical harassment is not allowed, that works to bring those LGBTQ plus youth forward who feel that they can be more comfortable about who they are. So having zero tolerance for bullying and harassment is a really, really, really important thing. If a policy doesn't exist at school, find ways to make that happen. Or as a teacher, say, we don't stand for bullying in this classroom. It's a point blank thing. It can't just be, oh, well, he didn't mean it that way. Finding ways to make it so that way students know they are safe with you as a teacher. Listening to students who tell you about a problem, either students or teachers, or a problem at home or in their community. If they come to you with something, again, they trust you enough that they hope that you can do something about it. And being able to make that change, or listening, even if you can't fix the problem right away, just letting that student know that you are listening and there is very, very important. Because if they're coming to you about this problem that to you may not seem so serious, later down the line, if they have trouble with mental health or substance use, um, being able to have that open door is vital. Actively intervening when bullying occurs. Bullying does include using homophobic remarks or verbal harassment, or stereotyping somebody. That is considered bullying, and it does happen from teachers. It happens from students. It happens from parents. So actively intervening whenever possible. And kind of similarly with that, practicing how to respond to that harassment. There are videos on YouTube. If you look up how to respond to harassment, if you LGBTQ plus harassment method techniques, a wide variety of stuff. If you look that up, you can go ahead and find ways on how to respond to that, and actively step in and make a student's life better. Um, Even just thinking in the last year, what homophobic remarks had you heard, or what verbal harassment about sexual or gender orientation had you heard. Being able to think through those things beforehand will help you in the moment be able to actively intervene. And finally, being visibly and vocally supportive. That is a wide variety. That's a very huge banner of important stuff to do. But finding ways to celebrate LGBTQ plus students and successes is a big one. If a student that is LGBTQ plus, has done something good, but it wasn't necessarily officially recognized by the school, personally congratulate them, or have it be part of your class sharing throughout the day, putting achievements up on walls, awards, or even quite easily, one of the easiest ways to support LGBTQ plus youth in our schools is to support the school GSAs. We have wonderful, wonderful, wonderful GSAs here at our middle and high school. They are run by one of our counselors and one of our teachers, and they are constantly growing and finding ways to interact, and being able to support them whenever possible, even if it means just putting up the the GSA flag, which is the one in the top left here, the black and white stripes with the rainbow triangle. That is the flag for the GSA National. If you can find a way to put that up in your classroom, have it as a sticker on your door, let students know that you support them, that's huge. Similarly, signs, stickers, other wall hangings such as flags, posters, anything like that that you need, Base would be happy to connect you with resources for, and getting that put up on your wall, or in this next year, the next couple of months, putting it in your virtual classrooms. Let them know that there are ways that you support, outside of just every couple of days wearing an Evansville Pride shirt. Finding some way to have those wall hangings become a permanent fixture of your classroom, so students know that they can come to you with any questions or concerns, or feel that they can be who they are with you. And ultimately, I think the most important thing that we need to do for our students is just ask them what they need. Ask them what support and resources, if they ask for it, do what you can to help them out with that. Say, would it be good if I had a flag hanging in my doorway? Is this something that you would want? Do you want me to wear more pride shirts? What can I do to support you? How can I support the GSAs? So just finding ways. Don't just make an assumption on what students want. See and engage with them and see what they need. Students would be happy to tell you if you come to them saying, hey, what can I do to support you as an LGBTQ plus youth? I'm sure there's 100 different things that's going on through their mind in figuring out how to support you. One of the things that BASE is interested in doing is bringing the Welcoming Schools program. The HRC's foundation, Welcoming Schools, is the nation's premier professional development program, providing training and resources to elementary school educators to embrace all families, create LGBTQ plus and gender inclusive schools, prevent bias-based bullying, and support transgender and non-binary students. That's a pretty big banner of what Welcoming Schools does, but it's really, really important that schools take this mission up upon themselves and find ways to do everything that's listed here. Beginning this year, BASE would like to partner with the Evansville Community School District to bring Welcoming Schools training to the Evansville Community School District. We think that this would be a really solid program for the ECSD, because it does everything that's listed above. It's training sessions, it's resources, it's materials. We can go to the next slide. And basically, what it is it's a 3-year contract with the Human Rights Campaign and the Ewelcoming Schools program for ECSD. There's a school climate assessment that looks at the baseline needs and capabilities of schools, and it review assessment 2 years down the line. This program is 3 years long. The remaining contract that base has funding is 3 years long. So we're hoping to be able to pair the two of them together and finish strong on that. Trainings that focus on preventing bias-based bullying in our schools, helping transgender and non-binary students to thrive, and creating classrooms that welcome all families, while providing resources and support to teachers. It talks about there's a series of trainings over the next couple of years that would talk about language, that would talk about how to incorporate LGBTQ plus inclusivity into education. So it's not just teachers figuring it out and not the administration figuring it out. It's a whole program that's designed to support the school as they come up with and incorporate these policies and programs into their own. So finally, a couple last things. We talked about how to do inclusion and that inclusion is important, but inclusion in schools leads to students feeling less likely to feel unsafe at school because of their sexual orientation or gender expression. If you incorporate inclusive curriculum and an inclusive program, students feel safer and they feel like they can be who they are without being judged. Again, from the National School Climate Survey from GLSEN, this is really, really big. Transgender and non-conforming students with supportive and inclusive policies face less discrimination and are more engaged in school. They're less likely to be forced to use the wrong bathrooms, to be prevented from using their preferred name or pronouns, and less likely to miss school. All three of these are important parts of transgender and gender nonconforming students feeling safe and welcome in their communities, not having or being misgendered, not being called the wrong name, and not feeling unsafe or unwelcome at school. So today's activity, we're going to go ahead and I'll pause the screen in just a hot second. How can your organization advocate for schools to be more inclusive and LGBTQ plus affirming? So the two big things that we want you to know, to ask and figure out is how can your organization help bring welcoming schools to ECSDs? And what are ways that your organization can support the middle and high school gay and straight alliances? So I'll go ahead and leave this up on the screen for a hot second. You can go ahead and pause, screenshot, do whatever you need to do. Questions, comments, or concerns, please go ahead and email us at the email below, baseevansville@gmail.com. Thank you for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.